Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a simple question. What happens when someone hurts you? How do you feel when you're wronged, disrespected, or even betrayed? It's easy to feel the urge to strike back, to lash out, to say something that can give us some temporary relief. But here's the thing, reaction is weakness, control is strength. Today, I want to talk about something crucial. I want to talk about what it means to never react when someone hurts you. I want to share with you why this single principle can completely transform your life, your relationships, and your success. Think for a moment about the last time you reacted impulsively. Perhaps it was a situation where someone said something that cut deep. Maybe a colleague took credit for your idea, or a friend betrayed your trust. In those moments, the instinct is almost overwhelming. You want to lash out. You want to defend yourself. You want to make sure they know they can't treat you that way. It feels right, doesn't it? It feels like you're doing something about it. But let me ask you, what is the true cost of that reaction? When you react immediately, you are allowing your emotions to take control. Anger, frustration, hurt. They all rise up in you, and in that moment, they seem to demand a response. You might say something you don't mean. You might escalate the situation. And here's the thing, you lose your peace. You lose your ability to think clearly, to make sound decisions, to navigate the situation in a way that aligns with your values. You've heard it before. Don't let someone's negativity ruin your day. But it's deeper than that. The problem with reacting is that you aren't just risking your day. You are putting your peace of mind on the line. When you let your emotions dictate your actions, you are essentially handing over control of your emotional state to someone else. You give them the power to control how you feel, and every time you do that, you lose a bit of yourself. Now, let's talk about what happens after you react. You might feel better momentarily. The words you said, the anger you expressed, it's cathartic for a moment, isn't it? But then it starts to settle. You realize that your reaction didn't change anything. In fact, it may have made things worse. It could have escalated the conflict, hurt the relationship, or even led to deeper resentment. Think of a time you lashed out. What did it cost you? Respect, trust, maybe even a sense of pride. I've seen it countless times in both personal and professional situations. A person reacts, and suddenly they find themselves in a worse place than before. They've given their power away, and now they're left dealing with the fallout. Relationships can be strained. Opportunities may slip away, and all of that, just because of a momentary reaction. You might feel justified in the moment, but the true cost comes later when you see how that reaction affects your future. Every time you react, you potentially damage something you've worked hard to build, whether that's a reputation, a friendship, or an opportunity at work. The situation doesn't change, but your reputation, your emotional well-being, and your peace of mind can be seriously harmed. Let's consider another angle. Have you ever noticed how quickly a small disagreement can turn into a huge argument? One hurtful comment, one sharp retort, one heated response, and suddenly, something that could have been resolved with a calm discussion spirals out of control. Reactions feed conflict. They feed misunderstanding. They drive people further apart. And once you've reacted, once the words are out, you can't take them back. The damage is done. When you react, you are at the mercy of the other person's actions. The moment you let your emotions dictate your actions, you lose control over the situation. It's like giving someone the keys to your emotional state and saying, "Here, you drive." But here's the truth, they shouldn't be in the driver's seat of your life. When someone hurts you, your instinct may be to retaliate, to make them feel what you're feeling. But the truth is, the cost of that reaction isn't just emotional, it's psychological and it's long-term. It doesn't just affect the present moment, it can alter the way you view people, the way you approach life, and the way you perceive your own self-worth. That split-second choice to react can carry a weight that lingers far beyond the moment. On the flip side, consider this. Every time you resist the urge to react, you're taking back your power. Instead of allowing your emotions to control you, you are in control. You decide how you will handle the situation, and the beauty of this is, you don't just protect yourself from immediate consequences, you protect your peace in the long run. Think of a time when you didn't react, when you paused and chose to respond instead. What was the result? Maybe it wasn't as dramatic or satisfying as you'd hoped in the moment, but I bet you felt better about it afterward. You walked away with your head held high. You didn't give away your emotional energy. You preserved your peace and you kept your integrity intact. That is true strength. The cost of reacting is more than just the momentary loss of control. It's the toll it takes on your emotional and mental health. Every time you react, you reinforce a pattern of emotional instability. You're teaching yourself that in moments of tension, you cannot stay calm, that you cannot think clearly. And as this pattern deepens, it becomes harder and harder to regain control. But when you choose not to react, you begin to build a new habit. You start to teach yourself that no matter what happens, you can remain grounded. You can pause, reflect, and then make a decision based on logic, wisdom, and clarity, not emotion. You can respond in a way that aligns with your values, and this isn't just good for you in the moment. It builds a stronger, more resilient you, someone who isn't easily shaken by the storms of life. Here's what I want you to remember. Your emotional peace is worth far more than the fleeting satisfaction of an angry reaction. Every time you resist the urge to react, you win a small but significant victory over your own impulses. Over time, this adds up. You build strength, you build resilience, and most importantly, you build a life that is no longer at the mercy of others' actions. You take control back. You become the master of your emotions, your life, and your future. When we face hurt, there's often a moment of choice to react or to respond. It's the critical pause that can determine the direction of your emotions, your day, and ultimately, your life. Reacting is automatic, a reflex, while responding is deliberate, thoughtful, and rooted in a deeper understanding of your goals, values, and character. To understand the power of responding, think of a time when you've been in a heated situation. Maybe it was a disagreement with a family member, a conflict with a colleague, or a confrontation with a stranger. The moment someone says something hurtful or aggressive, your body and mind can instantly flood with emotions: anger, frustration, hurt. The immediate response is to strike back. You feel justified in doing so because, after all, they've hurt you, they've wronged you. But here's the truth. Reacting from a place of emotion doesn't bring resolution. In fact, it often makes things worse. When you react, the situation escalates. The exchange becomes an emotional battle rather than a constructive conversation. Both parties end up digging their heels in, emotions running high, and logic taking a back seat. Instead of solving the issue, the conflict gets more tangled, and often, the relationship takes a hit. Think about the last time you were in this situation. What was the outcome? Likely, there was no growth, no learning, and no resolution. You simply reacted, and the pain or frustration only deepened. In contrast, responding gives you control. When you respond, you take a step back. You pause and process. You ask yourself, what do I want to achieve here? What is the best way to handle this? Responding isn't about ignoring your emotions. It's about acknowledging them and choosing to act in a way that reflects your values. Responding is an act of strength because it means you are not controlled by your impulses. You are in command of yourself and the situation. Let's go deeper into the act of responding. When you take a moment to breathe, to pause, you give yourself the space to think clearly. You stop being a victim of your emotions, and you start acting from a place of clarity. A response doesn't have to be a defensive one. It doesn't have to be a fight or an argument. It can be a calm, measured statement that reflects your understanding of the situation. A response could be as simple as acknowledging how you feel without letting it dictate your actions. For example, you might say, "I'm upset by what you said, and I'd like to discuss it calmly," rather than retaliating with something hurtful of your own. Real life examples show us the incredible impact of responding versus reacting. Consider someone in a leadership role, whether it's a manager, a teacher, or even a parent. They are faced with challenges daily, but the most powerful leaders are not those who react impulsively to every challenge or criticism. Instead, the leaders who inspire respect are those who take the time to respond thoughtfully. They handle disputes with grace, calmly address concerns, and guide their teams or families with wisdom. That ability to respond rather than react is what sets apart true leaders. Let me give you a powerful story. A manager, let's call her Susan, had a team member who was often late to meetings and missed deadlines. In the past, Susan might have reacted with frustration, scolding the employee in front of the team, or perhaps venting her anger to a colleague. But Susan had learned the value of responding, not reacting. One day, she took the time to sit down with the employee privately. Rather than starting with accusations, she began by asking, "I've noticed you've been struggling with deadlines recently. Is there something going on that I should know about?" By responding in this way, Susan opened the door to understanding. She discovered that the employee was facing personal challenges that affected their work. Through a calm, thoughtful response, Susan was able to address the issue effectively, and together, they developed a plan for improvement. The employee appreciated the approach and worked harder to meet expectations. This response didn't just solve the issue, it built trust and loyalty. By responding, you gain the opportunity to constructively handle difficult situations. It opens the door to solutions and compromises. When you react, all you're doing is fighting a battle that doesn't lead to progress. A response, however, builds bridges, creates dialogue, and fosters resolution. Emotions are temporary. Character is permanent. Emotions are a powerful force. They can overwhelm us, take us to places of intense joy or deep despair, and in many ways, they shape our experiences. But here's an important truth. Emotions are temporary, while your character is what stays with you for the long haul. The way you choose to react in moments of emotional upheaval will shape your character far more than the immediate emotion you're feeling. Think of a time when you allowed your emotions to dictate your actions. Perhaps it was a moment of anger or hurt, where you said something you regretted or did something impulsively. In the short term, it may have felt like you had regained control or made your point. But in the long term, what did that moment cost you? It could have cost you a friendship, a chance at promotion, or a sense of peace that took days to rebuild. That fleeting emotional burst doesn't just disappear, it leaves a mark. It changes the way you see yourself and the way others see you. On the other hand, when you choose not to react, you are building strength of character. Every time you resist the urge to let your emotions take control, you are teaching yourself that your character is more important than any momentary feeling. When you take a step back, you acknowledge that while emotions are real, they do not define you. Your response, your actions, your integrity, those are what define your character. Let's take a closer look at how emotions can cloud your judgment. Imagine you've just been criticized by a superior or a mentor. The first impulse is often to defend yourself or push back, to show that you are capable and that their words are unwarranted. But responding out of that emotional place can lead to more conflict, and it can make you appear defensive or unwilling to grow. Instead, if you pause and choose to respond with respect, humility, and openness, you may actually gain more from the situation. Your character will shine through, not because you were perfect, but because you handled the challenge with grace and maturity. Emotions are fleeting, but your character is what builds your legacy. Think about the people you admire most. Do you admire them because they were quick to anger or reaction? Or do you admire them because, no matter what life threw at them, they responded in a way that showcased their strength, wisdom, and resilience? The best leaders, the most respected individuals, they are those who choose their responses carefully, who do not let the whims of the moment dictate their actions. Your character grows in those small moments when you choose to hold back from reacting. It's in those decisions that you build a solid foundation for yourself, a foundation that cannot be easily shaken. Each time you pause, reflect, and choose a response rooted in your values, you're strengthening the person you are becoming. And as your character grows stronger, so too will your ability to face life's challenges with confidence and integrity. Focus on what you can control. There is a powerful truth that many people overlook. The only thing you can control is yourself. Think about it for a moment. No matter how much we might want to, we can never control what others say or do. We can't change how they behave or dictate their emotions. We cannot control their reactions or their actions, and in many cases, we cannot prevent the hurt that others may cause us. But what we can control, what we have absolute dominion over, is how we choose to respond to those situations. When someone hurts you, the natural instinct might be to retaliate, to react in a way that makes the other person feel your pain. But consider this: every time you react, you surrender your power. By giving in to your emotions and letting someone else's behavior dictate how you feel and act, you've lost the most important form of control you possess. You've handed over your emotional energy and your peace of mind to someone who, likely, has no understanding of how precious that is. The truth is, emotions are fleeting, but the consequences of our actions can last a lifetime. When we allow ourselves to be controlled by someone else's behavior, we risk losing something far more valuable than a fleeting moment of satisfaction. We risk losing our sense of personal power. We all know that life is unpredictable. People will hurt us, disappoint us, betray our trust, and challenge our beliefs. But how we respond to those challenges is what defines us. When we focus on what we can control, our response, our thoughts, our actions, we reclaim our power. When we let go of the need to control the behavior of others, we unlock the freedom to live authentically, to respond from a place of strength, not desperation. Here's where it gets truly empowering. Focusing on what you can control creates space for personal growth. Every time you resist the urge to react and instead choose to respond thoughtfully, you grow as a person. You develop resilience, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. You become someone who is not swept away by the tides of external circumstances, but rather someone who stands firm in their values, their principles, and their goals. Consider a situation where a colleague criticizes your work. It may feel unfair, or perhaps their words feel like a personal attack. The instinct is to fire back, to correct them, to defend yourself. But in that moment, you have a choice. You can choose to engage in a defensive argument, trying to protect your ego and prove your worth. Or you can step back, choose not to react, and focus on what you can control, your response. By choosing to pause, you allow yourself the space to consider the situation from a place of clarity. Perhaps there is truth in their criticism, something you can learn from. Or maybe the criticism is just a projection of their own insecurities. Either way, your response can be rooted in grace and wisdom, rather than in the defensiveness of someone who feels their value is under attack. You control how you react to criticism, and by handling it with maturity and poise, you maintain your dignity and self-respect. When you focus on what you can control, you break the cycle of emotional reactivity. The cycle goes like this: someone says or does something hurtful, and you react. The reaction leads to a deeper emotional entanglement, and before long, both you and the other person are caught in a spiral of hurt, frustration, and defensiveness. By focusing only on what you can control, your response, you break that cycle. You stop the pattern of escalating conflict and create space for healthier, more productive conversations. This is how you create a foundation of emotional stability. Think about it this way: when we react, we become reactive. When we respond, we become proactive. Being reactive means you are simply responding to what life throws at you, at the mercy of external forces. But being proactive means you are in charge of your response, your decisions, and your path forward. The moment you take control of your reactions, you take control of your life. You stop being a passive participant in the drama around you and start becoming the author of your own story. This shift is transformative. Imagine how much more peaceful and empowered you would feel if you no longer allowed the actions of others to dictate your emotional state. Instead, every time someone cuts you off in traffic, says something unkind, or betrays your trust, you respond not from a place of emotional impulse, but from a place of control and clarity. You make a decision to rise above the situation. You focus on your response, not their behavior. This doesn't mean you ignore your emotions or suppress them. It means you choose to manage them rather than let them manage you. It means acknowledging your feelings without allowing them to hijack your actions. It means deciding that your peace is more important than being right or having the last word. Here's another way to think about it. By focusing on what you can control, you protect your peace of mind. Think about a time when someone did something that really upset you. In that moment, you might have felt justified in reacting. But if you reflect back, you might realize that, while your reaction brought temporary relief, it only increased the tension or drama. Now, think about a time when you chose not to react. Perhaps the situation was still uncomfortable, but by not giving in to the urge to react emotionally, you kept your peace. You didn't let the actions of someone else dictate how you felt. Peace is not something that happens to you, it's something you choose. By focusing on what you can control, the way you respond, the thoughts you choose to hold on to, the actions you take, you create a life that is grounded, centered, and free from the turbulence of external circumstances. Control is not about dominating others or making them bend to your will. It's about mastering yourself, choosing your responses, and protecting your inner peace no matter what the outside world throws your way. The moment you focus on what you can control, you free yourself from the constant battle with others and start living with intention. The power lies in your hands. Will you choose to use it? One of the most powerful lessons we can learn in life is that your peace is more valuable than being right. In a world that often pushes us toward competition, validation, and proving ourselves, it can be easy to fall into the trap of thinking that being right is the most important thing. When someone wrongs you, when you feel disrespected or misunderstood, there's this innate desire to correct them, to show that you know better, to prove that your version of the story is the right one. It feels good to win a battle of words, to feel like you've won, to feel like you've proven your point. But here's the hard truth. Winning that battle often comes at the cost of your peace. Think about a time when you've been in a heated argument. Maybe it was with a family member, a colleague, or a friend. You knew you were right, you had the facts, and you were certain that your perspective was the correct one. And so, you fought for it. The argument escalated, and even though you might have technically won, the cost was steep. There was tension, hurt feelings, and maybe even a sense of distance between you and the other person. The moment you felt victorious quickly faded, and what you were left with was the emptiness of a fleeting win. You might have been right in the moment, but your inner peace was lost, your emotional well-being took a hit, and the relationship was strained. It's important to realize that being right doesn't always lead to growth, healing, or resolution. Sometimes, the need to be right can prevent us from moving forward, from learning, and from finding a better solution. Let me ask you, when you look back on the times when you were right but didn't have peace, what did you really gain? Sure, you may have won the argument, but did it bring you happiness? Did it deepen your relationships? Did it improve the situation? In contrast, when you choose your peace over being right, you choose a path of emotional maturity and growth. Instead of needing to prove your point, you choose to preserve the relationship, protect your mental space, and create an atmosphere where communication can thrive. When you prioritize peace, you make room for understanding and compassion. Rather than seeking to win a battle, you create an opportunity for resolution. Think about the people who exude calm in moments of conflict, those who don't feel the need to dominate a conversation or prove their superiority. These individuals are often the ones who inspire the deepest respect. Why? Because they understand that peace is the true currency in life. They know that being right doesn't matter if it disrupts their peace. They choose to rise above the conflict, to hold onto their calm, and to navigate the situation with grace. These are the people who cultivate trust, who build strong connections, and who create environments where everyone feels heard. It takes great strength to prioritize peace over being right. It requires self-awareness and emotional intelligence to recognize that winning the argument is less important than maintaining your inner harmony. This does not mean that you have to suppress your thoughts or feelings or that you should allow others to walk over you. It simply means that you choose to engage in a way that brings peace, not chaos. Imagine how freeing it would feel to stop arguing, to stop fighting for your right to be heard, and instead, focus on maintaining a peaceful presence. What if you could let go of the impulse to always correct others and simply allow them to express their perspectives without feeling the need to challenge them? In those moments, you preserve your emotional strength and you allow the other person to have their say without getting swept up in the tide of conflict. This doesn't mean you're weak, it means you are emotionally strong enough to recognize that your peace is far more important than proving you're right. Consider a scenario where a colleague challenges your ideas in a meeting. The instinct might be to jump in and defend your thoughts, to argue your points, to make sure everyone knows you're right. But what if instead of engaging in that battle, you took a step back and responded calmly? Maybe you would acknowledge their perspective, share yours respectfully, and seek a mutual understanding. By doing so, you might even uncover a better solution that neither party had considered. In choosing peace, you create an environment where collaboration, growth, and respect can thrive. Being right is temporary, peace is sustainable. When you make peace a priority, you unlock an entirely different way of navigating conflict. Instead of seeing disagreement as a challenge to your ego, you see it as an opportunity for growth, learning, and connection. Rather than clinging to the need to be right, you embrace the freedom that comes with emotional balance and self-control. In relationships, especially, the need to be right can wreak havoc. How many times have you clashed with a partner, a friend, or a family member simply because both of you felt the need to be right? That desire to win the argument might have satisfied your ego for a moment, but it often leaves behind the wreckage of unresolved hurt and frustration. But when you choose to prioritize peace, you transform the dynamic. You open the door to compassion, to understanding, and to deeper connection. You're not trying to win. You're trying to understand, to empathize, and to find a resolution that benefits both of you. In the end, true victory isn't found in proving someone wrong. It's found in preserving your peace, maintaining your integrity, and fostering meaningful, respectful relationships. Let go of the need to be right all the time. Recognize that your peace is worth far more than any argument you can win. When you let go of the need for validation, you unlock a sense of freedom that allows you to respond with wisdom and emotional intelligence. Choose peace. It's the greatest victory you can ever achieve. The long-term damage of holding on to hurt when someone hurts you, whether intentionally or unintentionally, the natural reaction is to feel pain. That pain can range from mild discomfort to deep emotional wounds. It's easy to feel justified in holding on to that hurt, to keep it in your heart as a way of protecting yourself from future harm. But here's the problem with holding on to hurt. It doesn't protect you. It keeps you stuck in the past. The long-term damage of holding on to hurt is insidious. It may start as a small emotional bruise, a wound that seems manageable. But when you hold on to that hurt, it festers, it grows. The more you cling to it, the more it starts to shape the way you see the world and the people around you. You start to view others through the lens of that pain, making it harder to trust, to forgive, or to move forward. And the irony is, the person who hurt you may have long since moved on, while you remain shackled to the past, unable to heal. When you hold on to hurt, you allow someone else's actions to continue affecting you long after the event has passed. The hurt becomes a part of your emotional landscape, coloring the way you interact with others and with life itself. You might find yourself reacting to situations or people in ways that seem disproportionate, because the old wound is still fresh in your mind. You carry it with you wherever you go, allowing it to influence your present actions and relationships. In order to heal, you must let go of the hurt. Holding on to it does not serve you. It only gives the person who hurt you continued power over your life. When you release the pain, you take back your power. You free yourself from the emotional weight that drags you down. Letting go of hurt doesn't mean excusing the behavior of the person who caused it. It doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it never happened. What it means is that you are choosing to prioritize your emotional well-being over the pain of the past. Letting go of hurt is a process, one that requires self-compassion and patience. It may not happen overnight. But every time you choose not to revisit the pain, not to dwell on the wrongs done to you, you take a step toward emotional freedom. You reclaim your energy, your peace, and your ability to love and trust again. You release the hold that hurt has on you, and in doing so, you allow yourself to heal and grow. The path to true emotional freedom and personal growth lies not in reacting to the world around us, but in choosing how we respond. Life will always present us with challenges, pain, and moments of conflict. But how we navigate these experiences is entirely within our control. By refusing to react impulsively, we protect our peace and preserve our emotional integrity. We shift our focus away from the need to be right, understanding that being at peace is far more valuable than winning any argument. And, most importantly, we let go of past hurts, recognizing that holding on to them only keeps us trapped in a cycle of suffering. The power of choice is in your hands. Every time you are faced with hurt or adversity, remember that you have the ability to decide how you will respond. In that moment, you can either surrender your peace to the situation or rise above it with grace and wisdom. Choosing peace isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of incredible strength, self-awareness, and emotional maturity. As you move forward, know that each moment is an opportunity to practice this power. The more you embrace it, the more it becomes a part of who you are. You are in control of your emotions, your reactions, and your peace. And by choosing to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, you will create a life filled with deeper connections, greater peace, and an unshakable sense of inner strength.